It's 42 minutes past 11 a.m. on the Joy News channel, and we're now able to take you live to the NDC headquarters where the General Secretary, Johnson Asiedu Nketia, is about to address a press conference.
It is trite knowledge, ladies and gentlemen, that the Commissioner for the then Internal Revenue Service does not report to the Auditor General on tax positions of companies. And neither is the Auditor General's Office a debt collection agency for the IRS. The reason Agyeman did this was that the Committee for Joint Action, CJA, of which Kwasi Pratt Jr. was a prominent member, had announced an imminent major public demonstration agitating for a downward review of the prices of petroleum products in the country. His clear intention was to intimidate Mr. Kwasi Pratt Jr. and the CJA in a bid to frighten them and induce them into calling off the planned demonstration. Ladies and gentlemen, the following are more of the antecedents of the man, Agyeman. It was Agyeman who was appointed acting Auditor General in 2001, when he was already past the mandatory retirement age of 60 years, and who stayed in office till mid-November 2009, when his terminal leave ended, even though the maximum duration beyond 60 years for his tenure under the Constitution is 5 years. This was the reason why I had to take him to court when I was a member of Parliament for Wenchi West. It was the same Agyeman who the then chairman of the Public Accounts Committee, Honorable Samuel Salas Mensah, then MP for Upper West constituency, accused of dishonestly staying in office after the expiration of his constitutionally permitted term and questioned the legitimacy of audit report signed by him after 2006. This is the only Auditor General in Ghana whose reports to Parliament had been rejected because he was not considered to be legitimately at post. I was in Parliament at that time. I was a member of the Committee on Public Accounts, and I witnessed what went on. But because he had been put there by President Kufuor to do hatchet jobs, President Kufuor refused to remove him. And that was the reason why I had to go to court. It was the same Agyeman who handed Alhaji Mohammed Mumuni, then running mate of NDC presidential candidate Professor John Evans Atamils. He handed Dr. Kwadwo Afarijan, the former chairman of the Electoral Commission, and others when they criticized the MPP government of the day under President J.A. Kufuor. It was the same greedy Agyeman who harassed President Mills's government, claiming that he, Agyeman, was entitled to salaries from the state for the rest of his life after he had been paid S. Gracia Award as well as his emolument. You understand this? When he was illegally in office, till there was a change in government, some of us were insisting that he should refund all the salary he collected as an illegal government appointee. But the good old Professor Mills said, let him retire in peace. But after he has been paid his retirement benefit, he took the government to court that he's entitled to payment of salary till he dies. And this is the man who is heading a so-called board of Audit Service, and is creating problems in this country. Ladies and gentlemen, you will recall that this same Agyeman is the subject of a recent petition by the incumbent Auditor General, Mr. Daniel Yaw-Domolevo, addressed to the President of the Republic, complaining about the unlawful and unconstitutional interference of Mr. Agyeman in his work as Auditor General. and calling on the president to call Mr. Agyeman to order. The president and the corruption-fighting president is yet to respond to this petition. Agyeman, this character has been imposed as chairman of Audit Service Board with this type of character. And his job is to pressurize the Auditor General to do wrong things that will favor the interests of the MPP government. The Auditor General insisting on his constitutional rights, then petitions the presidency that this your appointee is creating problems and is preventing me from undertaking my constitutional duties. If you are a president who is interested in fighting corruption, I'm sure by now you would have responded and taken action to relieve the audit service of this type of character. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the same Agyeman who has been recruited by Nana Akufo-Addo's MPP government to do hatchet jobs on former appointees of the previous NDC government. And I'll tell you some of them. This is the same Agyeman who is being paid by the state to leak false audit reports. They don't only create audit reports, they create them implicating innocent people and then leak them out to their pliable media houses to publish, to tarnish the hard-won reputation of people whose only crime is that they have served this country well. The same man is requesting extension of donor support from the UNDP and logistics for this hatchet agenda. If the government is interested in fighting corruption, as they have indicated, you have gotten Parliament to establish for you Special Prosecutor's Office, you have made the appointments, and you refuse to give the office the needed resources to undertake its responsibilities. Every single investigative authority in this country is crying for resources. IOCO is crying for resources to be able to undertake their audits. Commission for Human Rights and Administrative Justice are crying for resources. The Attorney General's department itself is not properly resourced. The Public Accounts Committee of Parliament, which will do the work of reviewing audit reports, is also not properly resourced. The Auditor General's office itself is not properly resourced. And yet you are able, as a corruption-fighting government, put $6.8 million US together to fund fake firms that have not been properly recruited and given proper mandates to prepare fake reports. Then you cover these fake reports with letterheads you yourselves have generated as secretary to cabinet committee, and then begin publicizing this to tarnish the reputation of individuals in this country. Is that where our democracy has come to? And you are able to deceive international body like the United Nations Development Program to fund this type of exercise on behalf of Ghana. You've exhausted this money already, and you are requesting for extension. And somehow, the UNDP, I don't know, not having done proper due diligence about the background of such characters, is already working on something to help fund them to continue with what they want to do. This is the dear Agyeman, who has signed a letter to the cabinet describing himself as secretary of a so-called cabinet committee, when he is neither the secretary to the cabinet nor a member of the cabinet. Because of the oath of secrecy, cabinet committee reports are normally covered by people who are members of the cabinet or the cabinet secretary himself or herself, so that these documents are given the proper confidentiality. Now you have an outsider who prints his own letterheads for cabinet subcommittee, and he's now writing to cabinet as the secretary to cabinet committee. Dear Agyeman has designed his own letterhead for the so-called cabinet committee with the title Cabinet Committee for the Coordination of Investigations and Forensic Audit. I'm sure the press houses who have access to those fake reports, you will see this title, Cabinet Committee for the Coordination of Investigations and Forensic Reports. These so-called forensic audit reports allege that the Ghana National Gas Company, one of the forensic reports that was leaked, alleged that the Ghana National Gas Company, under the previous NDC government, caused financial loss to the state by purchasing helicopters, which cannot be found. That was what the report indicated, that there was a component of the Ghana Gas Company, some loan to the Ghana Gas Company, a component of which was for the procurement of helicopters. Then these fake auditors go there and then produce a report that those helicopters cannot be found. And then it is widely publicized as if the previous management of the Ghana Gas Company have taken money meant for the purchase of helicopters, and these helicopters cannot be found anywhere. You listen to the following. It is on record that those helicopters are stationed at the Ghana Air Force Base, being actively used by the Ghana Air Force, and that it was one of these helicopters that was used recently to convey the Vice President, Excellency Mahmoud Bawumia, to Wa when he went to distribute relief items to flood victims, which have turned out to have been expired relief items for which his brother-in-law, the Deputy National Coordinator for NADMO, has been suspended. The helicopters you are looking for, you sat in one of those helicopters to go to the north to distribute relief items. So my brothers and sisters, if you cannot see the helicopter which flew you to Wa to distribute relief items, how can you see the expiry date on cooking oil? How can you see expiry date on cooking oil? When the helicopters which flew you there, you couldn't see them. It is the same hatchet man, Agyeman, acting in the irresponsible, egoistic, and sleazy manner that he has become infamous for, who has been responsible for all these acts of misgovernance and illegality. Shoddiness is his first name, Dishonesty is his middle name, and vindictiveness is his surname. In 2005, the Chronicle newspaper, in one of its editorials, had this to say, and I'm sure the Chronicle guys are here. Quote, Mr. Agyeman has already been retired, and therefore, let us see him back home where he belongs, so he does not continue to denigrate this important office, so it does not become a national embarrassment, such that nobody will place any value on reports they spend the taxpayers' money to come up with, unquote. This is from Chronicle. If you are here, go and look for the newspaper, the edition that it was contained in. Against this background of all that we have enumerated so far, the NDC leadership has advised our former NDC government appointees not to subject themselves to these so-called investigative processes of these private companies with dubious mandates. We call on the President, Nana Akufo-Addo, and his MPP government to stop the incessant harassment and witch hunting of former NDC government appointees. The government must concentrate on the unbridled thievery and corruption of today. In particular, the government must concentrate on fighting the menace of one day, one corruption scandal by speedily, thoroughly, and properly investigating the following alleged corruption scandals and maladministration of the MPP government. The $178 million Kelny GVG and the Ministry of Communication corruption scandal. Nobody has told us where it has ended. The 1.5 million Star Times Rebecca Akufu bribery scandal. Nobody has investigated it. Your husband's government is engaged in negotiations with a company over a contract. Then you go behind to collect items for your so-called Rebecca Foundation. And when we say it's a bribery, we say it's a donation. What is the difference? Come and tell us. Somebody should tell us. The 1.2 billion National Identification Authority scandal. We've made noise about it. Nobody has investigated it. We don't know where it is now. What is the special prosecutor doing? He says he has no money. You have 6.8 million United States dollars. And in cedis is about 34 million Ghana cedis to spend on these fake audit reports. And yet you cannot find money for the special prosecutor to undertake his work of investigating corruption scandals that are eating the government up. The 2.5 million Baumia GPS scandal is yet to be properly settled. The 5 million liter contaminated fuel scandal involving Boss, Movimpina, Zoop Oil, etc., nobody knows where it has ended. Some chief executive has been sacked, but nobody is telling us that that is punishment for the oil contamination, nor the 6 million liters that have evaporated. The 230 cases of premix fuel diversion by the Ministry of Fisheries, nobody is looking into it. The 800 million website development scandal, nobody, by the Ministry of Special Initiatives and Development, nobody is looking at it. The 700 million Ameri innovation scandal, the noise has died and nobody is saying anything about it. The 8 million Nyantachi Akufo-Addo Baumia bribery scandal from the ANAS investigations and so on and so on. The ANAS report, investigation, and all the hula baloo have just died down.